Okay guys, welcome back to Mediocre Hobbies, and in today's video we're going to be doing something a little bit different, something that was originally planned for a different channel. We were going to put this on the Middle Earth channel. We're going to be doing this awesome piece of scenery, which I've already kind of put together and cleaned up and filled in some gaps, but it is actually the gates to the Mines of Moria. It's an absolutely beautiful resin pre that I've gotten sorted. It has these awesome tree sections, which will go on the front and block that all off, but I don't want to block it up before I start painting. So that's ready to rock and roll. And the reason it's on this main channel as opposed to the Middle Earth channel is this is a sponsored video by Green Stuff World, and they want to share with you their new airbrush paints, which are arriving on Kickstarter right now. There'll be links down in the description below if you want to check them out after this video. And basically I was looking around for a really cool project that would work for showing off these paints, and I was in the middle of making this, and the two things just seemed to collide. It seemed to make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to be using the Green Stuff World airbrush paints to get this thing fully painted up, and then using all the Green Stuff World kind of flocking and bushes and foliage and stuff to finish off the base and stuff as well. So from start to finish, Green Stuff World. So this should be a very fun project, and I'm very much looking forward to getting into it. Now, before I start, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone out there that, as of course, always supports the channel, whether watching videos, liking videos, commenting, subscribing. All those things are absolutely amazing, and please keep doing those and do them more. But if you do take the extra step and sign up to the Patreon, there's a whole host of extra benefits. You get extra videos, you get access to the podcast, access to a private Discord server, you can hang out with over 500 people talking about your hobby, helping, tips, tricks, all that kind of stuff. And we do painting competitions and showcase over there as well. And then obviously I like to give back as much as I can. So every single month I like to give a large box set away to one lucky patron. This month we are giving away the Eldritch Raiders box set, the brand new Eldritch Raiders box set, thanks to Underworld Gaming. They kindly provided that for me to give away. So if you are interested in winning that, all you need to do is be signed up to the Patreon at any tier. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to go away, get this thing sprayed up, and then let's start painting. Okay, so this is the monstrosity itself. It's quite a large piece of scenery. I haven't glued the trees in place. Obviously, they were just getting in the way for most of the work. I've sprayed the whole thing black after filling in the seams. And now it's time to finally test these airbrush paints. The first one I'm going to grab is the slate gray paint. And like I said, Green Stuff World sent me out these paints very kindly for review. They're coming to Kickstarter very, very soon. I'm not sure the exact date, but their page is up. You can go check them out. You can click, notify me on release and all that kind of stuff. So I'll leave a link to that down below so you can do that. And this is the first time I've put the paint through the airbrush. I've loaded it straight in and I've just begun. And it has come out super smooth, super nice coat. So I was quite pleased with that straight off the bat. There's nothing more irritating than fighting with your paints to work, especially through an airbrush. It's such an infuriating thing. Airbrushes are supposed to speed up your paint time, but if you're spending kind of a long period of time trying to make them work, it's a disaster. So that went on really smooth. I was really happy with that. And then I moved on to this olive grove green, which ended up being one of my favorite ones. I really enjoyed this. And the idea was that I was going to start airbrushing kind of in between all the cracks and recesses and around all the rocks. If you ever look at an actual kind of cliff face or boulders or anything like that, they're not gray. They're not clean gray stones unless they're pretty much on a beach. Everywhere else they're covered in moss and they're dirty and they're kind of mucky and stuff like that. So I can't just go gray and then lighter gray and expect it to look nice. So starting to introduce browns and greens into it is going to be super important. And that's what I did here. I introduced the green, and already I think that made a huge difference and it looks really nice. And I ended up going back and forth with the olive green a whole bit, but we'll explain that as I kind of move forward. Very experimental with this. The print itself is from another company that I backed on Kickstarter, and I've been printing it off for the last few weeks, so yeah. Moonstone Grey is the next one, and I went in. I myself personally feel like I've got pretty good kind of trigger control and kind of aim when it comes to airbrushing. I can decide where I want the paint to go, and it will generally go there. But there will always be a little bit of overspray, a bit of misting and stuff like that, so when I was finished kind of applying this grey, I think I did the ground texture, and then I realized the wall was looking a little bit too much too gray. And I want to introduce that green back in again. So we will go back to that in a moment. But as you can see, I'm just picking out the higher points where the sun's going to hit it, where the rocks are supposed to be a little bit brighter and stand out. Dark umber was then brought in for all the ground texture. Didn't have to be too careful with this. I just basically put it on as much as I want. If it hit the kind of ends of rocks and bottoms of the door or anything like that, that just adds to the look of, a rock face being out in nature for thousands of years. So I can make this step be fairly quick. This is me going back in, like I said, with that olive green paint, because I realized I made the wall look a bit too gray. You can see it here as a whole. It's just a little bit too gray. So the green definitely added a nice bit of spot color that I think I took away. So I'm going to introduce that back in now. Like I said, it's very simple to clean out the airbrush from these paints. I've had absolutely no problems with them. I haven't had to disassemble my airbrush and clean out anything. It's just been, you know, next color, just clean it out with a bit of water, pop the next color in and start spraying. And it's been working a treat. So very much enjoying that. I think I've only got about half of the paint range that they're showing off. So I was hamstrung a little bit with some of the colors. I could have done with a few more browns for the trees and the ground. So hopefully I can get my hands on the rest of the airbrush set at some point soon and make that work. I did end up airbrushing back in the door as well to add a bit of green. I was supposed to blend into the wall a little bit. But I ended up doing so much work to the door later on that I had to go back over and basically redo those things. Birchwood brown was then brought in for the ground texture and the trees. But once again, because I'm learning these paints, I'm learning the tones, I'm learning the thing, I didn't like that either. I liked it on the trees, but I did end up going back over with the ground texture with a darker one again for some dry brushing later on. This is an odd angle, but it's really hard to film. And this was me using their nuclear white air paint, and I was painting it into all the little grooves and symbols and stuff that make up the door itself, which is a very cool step. Something I've seen people do a bunch of times before with like glowing shields and swords is they'll put a nice pin wash of a pure white in, then they'll airbrush over it with the nuclear white, which is what I'm doing here, just to create a gradual fade, and then they'll go over it with the color they want to actually make it glow to make that effect work. Now, unfortunately, I probably should have gone away and used one of their like dips or an ink or something for the blue. Instead, I went for one of the airbrush blues, and it did kind of cover up a little bit too much, and it wasn't the result I was hoping. So Zima blue, unfortunately, wasn't the paint I should have used. It gave me the exact tone I wanted. Like if you look up pictures of the door of Moria, this is the kind of glowy blue that I wanted. I just wish it was a little bit more transparent so that white would show through. So I ended up having to go back through. I ended up airbrushing back over with some white into some sharper areas to make the detail pop again. And by the time I'd gotten all that out of the way, the door was so covered in paint that I had to go back in with both shades of grey and the olive green again to blend the door back into the wall section, not hitting kind of all the glowy white and blue sections. So this was a bit of a chore, but I'm glad I spent the time going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until I was happy with the result and I got what I wanted. Flaming orange normal paint was brought in just to dry brush the ground texture. Anyone who's watched any of my videos knows that when I do my like natural brown bases, it's like a dark brown, then it's a dry brush of orange, and then it's a dry brush of bone, and that gives me my favored kind of texture for the ground. I love it so much. And then I just add tufts and, you know, reeds and all that kind of bits after that. And you can see this does give a really nice effect. It's fairly simple. A lot of people get confused by the use of orange on the ground, but I promise you it looks really good and it's really simple. A bit of temple ochre over the top of that. Dry brushed in very lightly on the ground surface. We'll finish off the color that I want for the ground. And then we go kind of a little bit heavier with this and we hit the trees. And obviously I glue the trees into place and then I dry brush that ochre again over the trees, making sure that I'm kind of blending the stump of the tree into the actual tree itself, because obviously they're being painted separately. It's kind of hard for them to match. So the trees are in place and I've dry brushed in that bone to help them blend in. Now it's time for all of the textured flowers and bushes and all those kind of bits and pieces. Once again, all provided by Green Stuff World. And they've sent me a whole host of stuff to support the kind of Middle Earth channel and all the different videos I'm doing for the quest for the Ringbear. So all the scenery you've seen from them, the river for the Brandywine Bridge scene, and you know, the Barrow Downs we're doing for the next one. All that stuff's going to be done with them. I couldn't have done it without them. So a big thank you to them for that. And as you can see, I love this step so much that I just took my time and I just added all those spots of color with the shrubs. I added grass tufts. It took a little bit of time, but I really like how it was looking. And then I have a technique which I don't know if anyone else uses, but I use this sponge material. People use it for flock and stuff like that. I add a little bit of super glue onto the area I want to apply. And this is for me adding moss. You simply press it in, and because it's a sponge, it absorbs super glue in a second and hardens. Then you just pull it away, tears off, leaves a perfect patch of moss left behind. It's a super quick technique, looks great on bases and stuff as well. If anyone out there who wants to get their hands on some of this, it's really good. So I continued adding this moss to all the kind of rocky surfaces, anywhere I think moss would build up. And that brought us to the end of getting this awesome piece of terrain kind of painted up, finished off. Here it is in all of its glory. I took a few interesting pictures with it. Obviously it's kind of hard to get it into focus and into frame because it's kind of large, long and short. Under some moonlight, which is obviously the kind of scene which it was in the movies when they came across the Mines of Moria, and then they were of course attacked by the Watcher in the water. So that was really fun. So I did it under a couple of lights, and then I had to do a couple of close-ups and add in some figures as well. So we're gonna have Gandalf and we're gonna have Frodo appear in these pictures. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this as much as I did, and you're looking forward to more videos over on the Middle Earth channel, which you should make sure you check out and subscribe very, very soon. Well, what can I say? I am pretty proud and pretty pleased with the final result of my gates to the Mines of Moria, which of course will be a big part of the quest for the Ringbear campaign that I'm currently running through. We literally just finished the Buckleberry Ferry mission and are working our way through to the Fog and the Barrow Down. So this is a couple of missions ahead, but it's nice to get a head start on stuff like this, and it was a lot of fun to do. So yeah. Final verdict, the airbrush paints worked a treat. I have a few kind of criteria that I like to go for when it comes to airbrush paints, which is, can I use them straight from the pot? I don't want to be mixing or thing. If I'm going to mix them while they're in the airbrush, then I might as well just use normal acrylics. So I like the convenience of pouring straight in, and that worked a treat. They were so smooth. Like I said, they worked straight out of the pot. Really nice range of colors. So yeah, big thumbs up for me. I'm very glad to have them and added to the arsenal of paints available for my projects. If you want to check them out yourself, like I said, they are linked down below. Big thank you to Green Support for supporting the channel and sponsoring this video. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.